bring you, give you the, I think he has to give you a role of host,
Okay.
and then you'll be able to get.
Endeavor Freedom. So
What's that?
I did click on Endeavor Freedom.
No, you just need to join the same room as where I'm at. We'll get this, everybody. Please be patient. Brett's a longtime author and has been doing live streams with us for a very long time. What's that, brother? Yeah, if you just go to the chat room, he'll give you the role to get into the channel. He has to give you a host role. Hello, everybody in the chat again. Thank you for your patience. We appreciate you, and we'll get this all going as soon as possible. I hope everybody's doing well and that you're having a blessed evening. We're definitely going to be covering some relevant information, and we're going to focus a lot on Brett's new books and his work. So hopefully we'll get him settled and we'll get this engagement going and bring you some new information. But until then,
Zen, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you, brother.
I can hear me. Good, good.
Yeah, but I hear you on the phone. Are you in the Discord now?
Yeah, I think I am. But wait.
Oh, you are? Okay, I'm going to hang up. You're good now, brother. All right, welcome. Thanks, Monster. We appreciate you, man. All right, he gave you the role so that you can get in. Now, from now on, you won't have any problems, and we'll just be doing, when we do the shows, this is the exact setup you're going to use. Because we're streaming out of Revolution Radio, and there's a bunch of channels, FM, AM, and all that we broadcast over as well. So, and you see Brooks and Agnew is in studio. That I can't help you with right now. There's advanced settings on your audio for the Discord that you can turn off the echo cancellation. There's an echo cancellation, and that will do that. But I can't help you find that right now. While you're looking, I'll go ahead and broadcast and talk to everybody. All right, Brett's going to reset his and check his stream. But again, thanks everybody and for your patience and for bearing with us as we have these technical difficulties. Things are still getting worked out, and every time I bring on a guest, I have to kind of walk them through the process, but going forward, we won't have these issues. And so anyways, many of you know that I've been working on my 2 new books that I will be releasing. I'm decided to do one more read through, and the reason being is because, as you know, in last week's show, I released that poem on Charlie Kirk and this being a turning point for America, and how that is, how that changed some of the focus of that particular book, The Seekers of Lost Paradise, and also of what will be Remember from Whence Thou Art Fallen, the second books. But I am making major progress, so it should not be long at all. Hello, everybody in the chat. We greatly appreciate you. Please do like and subscribe, and click that bell so that you get notifications. Okay, great. Thank you, Sherry. She says that my voice is coming in loud and clear. There's no issues. Hopefully we'll get Brett on and we can begin this show. But thank you, Brick and Sherry and Tammy George and Good to see you, Adrian, and everybody else in the chat and that will be joining the chat. We do also, just greatly appreciate you in your commitment to be with us and to listen to the shows and to expand your mind on the information that we relate and share. And also, I am watching the chat. And so if you have any questions or comments, certainly just post them in, post them in all caps, and I'll try to share them with everybody. Hello, Chelsea, Flat Out Truth. And so these two books that I'm working on, we'll get them out. I'm working diligently, and I'm trying to get them out as soon as possible. I know that I'm several months overdue, but I'm to the point where they're about to be ready for release, and I don't want to rush it. And so, and also, creative writing is a different process than just writing normal books. And so, hopefully, I'll be able to get all that cleared up, and I'll release the first one, which both of them are about 350 plus pages, which is why I had to divide them into two different books. And so,
can you hear me?
yeah, good. I hear you, brother. How are you?
All right. How you doing? Sorry.
Good, man. How are you doing?
Pretty good.
All right. So everything's good with you, sound and everything?
Yes.
Excellent.
I can hear you fine.
All right. Sounds good. All right. Well, let's get it going, brother. If you would, give out your website, contact information, and then let's talk a little bit about Charlie Kirk. And, because you haven't, I don't think you've expressed your feelings or what you think about all that and how it all went down. There definitely seems to be some new information come forth. It seems like this individual, Tyler Robinson, that he says, according, and who knows if this is clickbait or not, that he was hired by the feds, and that he could be a straight up patsy. Certainly people believe that, and the trajectory of, all the close-up videos, it seems to show that somebody was in the bushes 3 levels up above him shooting down, and that Charlie was shot at a downward trajectory, that it went in through the back of his head and came out through his neck, which they say that he was shot by a 30-06. And a 30-06, I don't know if you've ever shot a 30-06, but I have when I was able-bodied. And it's a deer rifle for long-range shots, but it will kill a large animal. And if it were to actually go through Charlie Kirk's neck, I think it would have blown his head off, and to the point where, it would have been catastrophic. I mean, I don't know what caliber was used, but it seems like it was a smaller caliber. I don't, again, we don't know. There's still too much coming out on this, but there are people, especially people that have served in the military, snipers, that are talking about what they witness and what they believe. And so with their military expertise, it's nice to have their opinion. And certainly Stephen Ben Noon of Israeli News Live, he's been covering this and showing a lot of information connected to this as well. But let me turn it back over to you, if you would. Give out your website, contact information, and then you can comment on what I said.
Sure. Yeah. Brett Thomas, and obviously, my contact information
Yeah, no, I didn't either. And again, that's a strange aspect of it. But it does seem that when he was walking away, going down the street towards the woods, that he had something long in his pants leg because he was walking like he was hobbling on one leg, like he would have had the rifle down his pants leg. But again,
That going there, or that coming back?
no, that was leaving. Once he had jumped off the roof, they said that he had the rifle wrapped up in, some cloth or a shirt or whatever. I don't really know. I don't really think that he was the shooter. Just because, again, they said that he was 200 yards out on a roof. And I think that he was set up to be the patsy because some of the shadow groups, they always do this. They always set up a patsy to be the fall guy. That's just, modus operandi of some aspect of the shadow government, those that are behind these kind of false flag events. And but again, if he would have shot Charlie with this supposed rifle, this 30-06, with a scope, well, first the exit wound is in the front of his neck, not in the back. But if he would have shot him in the front of the neck, it would have blew out. I mean, a large exit wound. It would have been massive, and it would have been messy. And we don't see that here. But again, all this is speculation. I'm just, I am no material expert, and I haven't, and I don't claim to have watched everything. I know that, I've told a lot of people that I know that with the Hegelian dialectic that they do seem to assassinate and martyr personalities, people. I don't know exactly why Charlie would have been targeted. He was, in my mind, a good dude and open for debating a lot of people. But perhaps he stepped on the wrong toes of somebody somewhere, and, this was the situation. But I'll give you a chance to comment. We won't spend a lot of time on this because, the focus of this show will be on your work. But I thought I'd, give you a chance to express or comment on this. And also, yes, Brick, problem, reaction, solution. And I know that our listening audience is very wise to false flag events and government-sponsored terror, and that I'm sure many of you have done your homework in looking at and examining some of these issues and topics. And so, hopefully it'll all come out in the wash, but I definitely do not at all believe that this guy, Tyler Robinson, shot Charlie Kirk with a 30-06. It's just doesn't add up the way everything and all the video evidence of, Charlie Kirk getting shot, how he moved forward as well. If he would have been shot from the front side with the 30-06, he would have collapsed backwards, not forward. And again, there would have been a massive entry wound and a massive exit wound out of the backside. There's no way in which, the Kash Patel, the FBI director, he said that it was a miracle that Charlie's body absorbed the shot and that there was no exit wound, which I don't believe that at all either. Again, from some of the angles, what I've seen, it looks like he was shot in the back of the neck with in the head, actually, downward trajectory, and it came out of the left side of his neck. That seems to be, and the blood splattering and pouring out on the front side as well seems to be, a confirming witness to that. But anyways, I'll give you a chance to comment on that, and then we'll move forward and let's get into some of your material and some of your work.
Yeah, I'm totally fine with talking more about this because I think it's interesting and it's very relevant. Can everybody hear me now? Because I hear some things or I see some things in the chat that says I'm soft, very quiet. Am I okay?
I hear you loud and clear, but let me make sure I have the stream. Let me make sure that. Go ahead, say again.
Can everybody hear me?
I seem to have you at really good levels. All right, I just turned you up as much as I could here. So, oh God, I remember one time we had this problem before, and I don't remember how we resolved it, but just speak up if you can, and let me check some settings while you're talking. Go ahead, brother. Brett. Can't hear you at all now, dude. Test. Oh, goodness. Hey, Brett, we're not hearing you at all now. I think you're muted. He's not a real user of Discord, so I think his connections and his settings are off, and that's probably the issue. But anyways, all right, so I'll talk about this a little bit more while we're waiting. But certainly, anybody that's in the chat, if you have a comment or a link, or if you know something different than what I've talked about or what I've shared, please do bring that up while we're waiting for Brett to get back and to get settled and get all his stuff going.
Can you hear me then?
Yeah, I hear you just fine.
Anybody else out there? I'm here back.
They'll let us know. But go ahead and, if you would, give out, make comment and anything that you want to say. Can you guys hear Brett clearly in the chat? Because he seems clear to me and loud and clear as well. So.
That's something maybe somebody needs to adjust, maybe?
I don't know. But let's keep it going. Okay, let's see now.
I think it's a little early, but I totally agree with what you're saying about some things just don't add up. And I'm starting to see a pattern too with this whole Trump attempted assassination with the same type of person that's literally nobody, and all of a sudden something happens, taken out one way or another, and it just seems like a pattern. In my opinion, again, Charlie Kirk was probably dangerous because he was reaching the youth, and that is something that they wanted to keep under their control and wraps, and I think that's one of the reasons why he was becoming such a target.
Yeah, he was definitely outspoken. All right, they said that your voice is still low. So I'm gonna check here as to all my settings just to make sure that I don't know what we did last time to make your sound better.
Headphones
All right, good. Again, thanks everybody. We'll try to get this settled. I just am not a technical expertise at all of this. All right. Maybe if he changes his.
All right. Anybody hear me better?
Oh, that definitely sounds louder to me.
You have a phone behind me. Anybody hear me? Everybody, I'm back.
You sound fine to me. I mean, I've got you loud and clear, but it's
Anybody?
it's them.
I don't know what else to do. No, they said no. They cannot hear me.
Oh my gosh, what is the issue?
I don't know. Just see
Ugh.
here. Here. Hello, anybody? No, much better now.
I hear you loud and clear. I don't know what the problem is. It's got to be. I don't know, because I'm not any technical expertise. I have to ask Justin, and he was the one that had resolved it last time, I thought. God, do you remember what we did?
That was with Teams, remember?
Oh yeah, that's right. That was a whole different. Let me just try to turn you up here.
Oh, Ken? Oh, you can hear me now better?
Oh.
Somebody said they can.
Okay, good. All right. Well, let's just go ahead and get into it, because I'm sure that you're streaming loud over Revolution Radio, and I pray that it's all coming clear to them as well. I don't know why it would be reduced, but
It's still far away. I don't know.
all right. Well, just keep talking for a second. Let me just try one more thing here.
I'm still talking. Here I am. Still talking. Here I am. Still talking. Still talking. Still talking.
Don't do that.
I am.
Don't do it like that, though. I mean, if you're going to say something relevant, because we are streaming out. All right, let's see. Why is this so weird? I don't know what to do. We're trying, people. Please be patient. I don't know what to do.
Revelation Radio.
It could be, check your audio settings in the Discord and see if you have your proper setup connected.
Input volume is almost all the way up. Input volume is down. Don't see anything else to change. Speakers, I have microphone. Here audio. Let's try that. Is that better? Switch to voice channel. I
You're-
really don't know what else I can choose on this.
We're just gonna have to just go on like regular. And I apologize. Maybe the recording will be loud. I don't know why they can't hear you, but I hear you loud and clear. And I don't know why, again. But we can't spend the whole show on trying to resolve the sound quality. You're just going to have to present your material as you can. Are you there? Okay, Brett's gone again.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Yeah, and I don't know why you're far away, but we're just going to have to do it as we can. It's
Let
odd.
me try one more thing on my end. I'll just try one more.
Yes, the show must go on. I apologize that y'all can't. They said that it's good enough. The sound is good enough.
Good enough.
Yeah.
I will speak louder if I can.
Yeah, just speak loud.
We might help out a little. Okay. Anyhow, I believe that it was pretty secure to say and think that he was getting dangerous and getting too popular for what they believe for his own good, because I believe that the whole future of this country is to be taken down and not brought up. And there is this quasi-communist world government that wants to get enacted, and they don't want people to be thinking critically and on their own. They want everybody to become part of this collective. And that's important. And that's why you see so many of these colleges pushing that same direction. You get socialism, you get communism, etc. And Charlie Kirk was dangerous. He was coming in there, and he was bringing big crowds, as we've seen in that last video. So it's almost like it was just too much, and I don't picture him, being derogatory to any people around him or saying a lot of negative things that might draw such an anger. I think it was something more inside the Beltway, where either him or someone else was just using all these things as an excuse that they were angry for.
Well, he definitely made somebody mad. And from what I understand, he was not accepting donations from some groups. And, maybe APAC, there's some speculation. And yes, Donna, if you would, that would be great. But of course, we probably won't get this resolved this time. But I will do another with Brett. We'll connect at some point before the next show and see if we can get all this resolved as well. But definitely, there's something going on behind the scenes. I don't at all think it was the right, just because he has been such a powerful force for bringing young people over to the conservative right. And I've noticed, even after his murder, when a lot of the wokest liberal trans left, when they decided to express their jubilance and to post all these videos where they're celebrating his murder, that it was a catalyst to force a lot of people to realize what was happening, that there was an extreme element to the Democratic left that people no longer wanted to have association with. And that, there's a lot of people leaving the party and becoming independent, and also leaning to the right, joining the conservative movement. And a lot of youth, and even in this election, and with some of the things that Trump has been doing, there's a lot of groups that were not Republican in any manner previously that have decided to join the coalition. I mean, just like, Tulsi Gabbard, who was a Democrat, and RFK, he was a Democrat, and how they left to join and to become part of the Trump's cabinet, and how they've been, really making a lot of headway on a lot of issues. And so we don't know exactly who it was, but certainly this maybe will come out in the end. But it's just nice to see that so many people are waking up to the how, because he was a believer. And no matter, because I know some people say that he was a Mason, that he was connected to Freemasonry in some way, even though I've not seen any evidence of this. Not that I've looked for it or examined it, but okay, I'll do that. When I'm done speaking, I'll mute myself to see if yours is louder, Brett. That's a suggestion from Tammy, but all right. But let me go ahead and turn it over to you and let you have a chance to response. And then after you do, let's go ahead and move into some of your work and get you to read some of the quotes and tell us what we're going to be learning about from your latest books. And if you would, also talk about that book, what it's about, maybe share some of the chapters, and then let's get into that.
Right. Okay. Just a little comment on what you said. One thing I did hear is they supposedly arrested the suspect 33 hours after the incident. And of course, that's what I've seen, at least on the news. And, we know the significance, or a lot of us know the significance of the 33, which is the 33 degradation. I don't know if anything like that might have been a tell or some kind of way to just kind of get it out there, speak something about that without everybody understanding it, except a select few. I'm not quite sure. Interesting thought, though. What do you think on that one?
Yeah, I haven't seen that. So I don't know. I haven't seen any releases on that, so.
Yeah, like I said, I just think that there is a cabal. I don't think it would be anyone on the right or anything, because I think the reason Tulsi Gabbard and some of these people are moving to the right, or at least see, it's hard to say left and right because in my view, it's
Staged. Controlled opposition.
staged and twisted, right?
Yeah, false
Right,
left-right
right.
paradigm.
I mean,
I agree.
right. When they try to turn somebody, they say, "Oh, you're on the right." No, I have Christian values. I don't believe that we're all part of a commune or a collective society. What's wrong with that? That's not mean that I hate people or I'm full of or a Nazi. And the Nazis were socialists. We gotta. Everybody seems to forget that. But if you have a love for country, or if you like anything that your own culture and stuff, and you don't want to be part of this one world collective or anything like that, that other people say that you should be, then you're from the right. And I don't think that's true. I mean, those definitions are off, if you really think about it. Right?
Yeah, I agree.
So I think a lot right.
Well, they try to also label MAGA supporters as being fascists, and they said that Trump's a fascist and Charlie Kirk was a fascist. Anytime they can't debate or come up with a truthful answer to, they just attack, and it's always been that way. So.
Right, and it's interesting to hear it is because the original fascists, one of the ones we always hear about is Molito, and we think about him like, oh, he's a fascist, but he started out socialism, and the only reason that they started to throw him on the right side of the spectrum is because he loved his Italian country, and he started to be harsh in his tactics, but he was still started out from the left. So again, when we start this, it's very hard. If you look and try to define what fascism is and what all these different political views are, they're very clouded and they're very easy to manipulate. I've looked at some definitions and I've studied some of them, and it's just, this doesn't really make sense. There's not really a good way to throw somebody on the left and throw somebody on the right. It's just like, okay, if you're a Christian, you got to be on the right. Okay, if you have values like that, you got to be on the right. If you don't believe in humanistic values, where mankind decides what his fate for the future is, then you're on the left. If you believe those things, so it's just okay. It's a little bit deeper than what we get taught so much nowadays. And I think a lot of these people who have actually Democrats, but now, they would, that's what the Republican Party, a lot of them would be considered back in the 60s, right? I mean, they still thought they thought common sense, they thought the working man, like Trump was saying, they wanted good things for the people, and, John F. Kennedy was that same way. He was just seeing things that he didn't like around him, and, again, another threat.
Well, they said you sound fine now, brother, so,
I do.
yeah.
Oh, great.
Yeah, the chat says everything.
What did you do?
Yeah, maybe it's me muting, I don't know, but we'll keep doing that throughout the show. But, yeah, the fascism, all that means is corporate rule. And certainly here in America, yeah, the lobbyists, they do pay off and support both left and right. That's why, I don't buy into the whole left and right paradigm, because it's controlled opposition. I've stated as much for many, many, many years now. But definitely, as far as Christian values, that is a more conservative approach. That, the Republicans are pro-life, for secured borders, and ever since, Bush has got out of office, Trump has been for not starting any new wars and for stopping wars, and even though, yeah, he did bomb Iran, that it didn't escalate, which is a positive thing, a really good thing. And the focus is on America, with all the tariffs. He's bringing back American jobs, manufacturing. Companies are no longer able to just go offshore and, find safe haven, not have to pay taxes, and not have to pay decent living wages, like here in America, using cheap third world country labor and creating cheap products, flooding our markets. Trump put an end to all that. And that has been a very beneficial thing, especially considering we're still $36 trillion in debt, and our AAA, that whole credit status, has been diminished as well. We've been downgraded by Standard and Poor's or Moody's, or one of those rating agencies, which makes borrowing money to pay the interest down on our debt that much more expensive. And that's the reason why Trump has been after Jerome Powell, the Fed chair, to reduce interest rates. And we know that this past September, there was a 25 basis point drop, and there are supposedly going to be 2 more interest rate cuts going forward, and that will stimulate the economy and also encourage people to invest in risk assets. That's why we see that, the stock market is at an all-time high. Crypto is very near all-time highs. A lot of the altcoins are running. Certainly Ethereum, Solana, and Bitcoin have been running greatly over the last year and a half or so. And so I see that that will continue. Gold also, and silver. Both of those, gold's at an all-time high. Silver was over $40, $42 just a week ago, which, for the longest time it had been suppressed in value, and it had remained between $18 to $20 for several years. And when I first started buying silver, it was like $2 an ounce, $2, $3, $4 an ounce, and gold was $400 an ounce. So those things have escalated in value greatly over time and space. But let me give you a chance to comment, brother, and then let's get into some of your work before we get to break, which at 57 after, which is in 9 minutes. We're going to take a break until 2 after the top of the hour.
Here's why I according to them, if you have any kind of national pride or any type, if you like your culture, your nation, then you got to be a fascist or someone on the right and hate everybody else. And I just don't agree with that. I just don't think that's right. But again, it's all part of a plan, because what they want is they do want a state of dependency, permanent underclass, where they can have everybody around the same state of equality. Okay? Equality of misery and equality of low expectations. Of course, the whole world can get that way, but that's the goal. And again, if you're one nation as an entire world government, who's going to provide the checks and balances, right? Who is going to stop you if you get out of control, if your government, the unelected government, just decides to do whatever they want? So again, perfect for the Antichrist, perfect for that, because who is going to stop him? And that's even in the Bible. I think it's in Daniel. It's like who is able to make war with him, right? Who is able to match up to this beast?
Right. Yeah, it's my opinion that the Antichrist is going to be one of these ancient alien fallen angelic beings, one of the Sumerian gods, the Anunnaki, which I remember, I've been uploading some of my older shows over there at Pump.Fun, but I remember a quote from Stan Deyo where he talked about how the buzzword in the Pentagon was that the Sumerian gods were returning. And that was a big to-do, and this goes back 10, 15 years when I first reported on that a long time ago. And we're at that time now. World government is without a doubt being established, even though, Trump doesn't like the United Nations, which I'm glad for that, because we do not need to be subservient. And certainly the world powers are trying to destroy America. And I think Trump has gotten in the way of this, and that he is being used for good. And I'm not saying that he's 100% as far as on against the globalists and the lobbyists and the corporations, because they pay everybody. They pay both sides. They support. They gave a whole lot more money to Kamala when she couldn't even make sense out of two words. I mean, she was a babbler and couldn't make sense of anything, could not respond to a question and provide any kind of intellectual, insight or answer, and that sank her. But in this day and age, the conservative right is certainly represented by Trump. He turned over Roe versus Wade. And how big is that? I mean, there's still, which there should be, emergency exception to the rule. And especially when a woman's life is at risk. But the ability for people to simply terminate and slaughter, kill their babies just because they don't want to economically have them, it is no longer viable. And so, and I think a lot of people are realizing that. And Charlie Kirk was very instrumental in arguing this point, that they were able to demean life by saying, oh, it's a fetus or it's an embryo, and like it has no life and no personhood, just because it's at the early stages of being a human being. That's all crazy to me, how they can, with a term, fetus or embryo or whatever, and that gives them just right to say it's okay to kill children. I mean, that is mass genocide. That's murder. And so it's good to see that people are coming to such realization. And also, Trump also stopped the insanity of this whole, not only the DEI agenda, but also the whole trans wokeist agenda that was started with Obama and his husband, Michael LaVaughn Robinson. I mean, his trans wife, Michael LaVaughn Robinson, who used to play football for Oregon State University. And Joan River made mention of, they asked her, you know, what's going to come first, us having a gay president or us having a female president. And she laughed and said that, you know, it's funny because we already have a gay president in the White House. And lo and behold, a few weeks later, she was killed during some surgery, some routine surgery. And her voice and opinion was silent. But Obama even called his wife, Michael, at giving some speech. I forget exactly where it was at, but he's always been gay. Like, he had, and there's a whole thing about a guy named Larry Sinclair, who was a male prostitute that worked in Illinois in the Chicago area. And he was, he had a lawsuit against Obama, and they were trying to put him in jail. And he came out, talked about how, you know, Obama was gay and how he had sexual relations with him and how he had seen him sniffing cocaine. And all these things are in the record. It's not anything hidden. Anybody can look it up. I believe Larry Sinclair, his book is still on Amazon, or at last I saw it was. But, you know, so there's a lot of things that Trump has upended that had come about because of Obama and his, you know, presidency over 8 years. All of that wokeist liberal agenda was established. That's where it originated from. And, you know, Biden and Kamala and that whole left, they supported all that. And look at all the money that the Elon Musk and his group and his people found of them just, you know, supporting all these trans programs all over the world. I mean, it's insane the amount of money that they were using on trying to normalize this. And this is nothing new. You can read Alice Bailey's 10-point plan for implementing the New World Order. And that was all written back in, you know, like the late 1900s. I think she was like 1950s or whatever, where she wrote about this. And she also started Lucifer's Trust, or Lucifer's Trust, which was a publishing company back in that time to, you know, teach all of her and to spread all of her New Age teachings. But let me give you a chance to comment, Brett. We got 2 minutes before break, and then we'll return after 2 minutes after 9, and then we'll get into your work.
What was that woman's name again, Zen?
Alice Bailey. 10-point plan for destroying, because her plan was to attack the Christian values of American families and to destroy American families, to bring in, to normalize not only, you know, deviant behavior and deviant sexuality, but also things like pedophilia and bestiality, and I mean really, really abomination, what the Bible considers abomination. But go ahead, brother. 1 minute.
As your mind gets more twisted, then they won't allow those things in to normalize things in the general public, you know. And I think a lot of these things that they're pushing are geared towards population control to lower the population. Since I think nowadays, before it was wasn't a problem to have more people because you could build bigger armies. But I believe after World War II, and things started settling down, I think it's all about unification, and populations need to start going
Yeah, well, that is definitely, part of the agenda of the globalist elite, and we know that from the Georgia Guidestones. But anyways, we are at break, everybody. We'll be back in 5 minutes, and we'll pick it up then. All right. I'll come on too after. Be right back, everyone. One minute, everyone. All right. Welcome back, everybody, and thank you for your patience. And at some point, I'm going to get the commercials uploaded so I can play them, and so that you guys aren't just sitting in limbo and you know when they end and when we'll return. But haven't got to that yet. Been working on a lot of things. I'll get to that at some point. But yeah, thank you again. I'm your host, Zen Garcia. This is Momentary Zen here on Revolution Radio. We stream every Wednesday evening, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern, East Coast, United States of America. I live in Athens, well, near Athens, Georgia. And yeah, this is second hour. And Brett Thomas, my good friend, who's also an author, amazing author. He's written several books. He also sells on our platform, sacredwordpublishing.com. You can find his books there. What's that, Brett? Hey, can you hear me? Sorry, I had my mic muted. I was talking in the background. Anyways, I apologize, everybody. And we will go ahead and pick up with the show. It seems like everybody's able to hear you. But I did want to let you know that I am going to, at some point, put the commercials in so that you can hear them. You'll know when they end, when we're back. And also, you're not just sitting there in limbo. But I do apologize. I don't usually mute my mic, but because we're trying to get the sound quality as best as possible, I'm doing that. And but hopefully we'll get all this resolved and won't have to do that, and I won't leave myself on mute. But at least, we're back now. But go ahead, Brett. Go ahead and bring forth whatever you like. If you care to comment on the things that I was talking about before we went to break, please do.
I think we can continue. I think we did talk a bit about what's going on in the world, and why don't we just talk a little bit about, because I'm going to try to do things a little bit differently. I hope people can still hear me.
Yeah, I hear you, fun.
Right, I was just thinking that maybe if we try to change it up a little bit, not just only readings. I didn't do a lot of book stuff today, but I did more of just some thoughts and topics we can get into, because I think you and I are just pretty good together to at least discuss these things, because I think that's why a lot of our people here too would be interested in. So one topic that I've always kind of wanted to just delve into you a little bit, and we'll just talk back and forth if you'd like, is why my particular real interest has been, ever since I started, has been more on this serpent seed concept. Okay? And my talk and my question to you in general would be, why would they try so hard to cover this all up? I do have a few theories, and I could just give them. I'm thinking, for one thing, if you think about it, okay, we have science, right? We have science nowadays that says, okay, well, is there even a spiritual world? It doesn't even matter. How could any spirits actually procreate with human beings and bring that on? Obviously, but that's within the last maybe 50, 100, 400 years that science has been like the God and the top dog as far as what we're going to believe and what we should not believe, etc. But it goes way back. It goes way back to especially around the 4th century. Okay, then this is my question and my thought to you. Can you give me some of your thoughts first about why, like in around the 4th century, did they just all of a sudden when giants and when the Nephilim and all of that had to do with the fallen angels, all of a sudden in the 4th century they just tried to just twist it around and say that it didn't exist?
Well, it's my opinion that the Smithsonian and again the powers that be, they are wanting to challenge and debunk the narrative of the Bible, which of course we know that the giants are the children of the fallen angels, and they are also the arch nemesis of Elohim, and they are the adversaries of humanity. And so they want to hide anything that confirms the veracity of the scriptures as the inerrant word of the Most High God. And so, and also they want to support the whole theme of evolution and Darwinism, and that man evolved of apes out of random consequence for our being, the Earth being one of 9 planets in orbit around the sun, and that because we happen to be in the Goldilocks zone, that just randomly kicked off life here on the Earth, which is complete nonsense. The fact that they think or that they assert we evolved of monkeys, when monkeys are a different type, kind, and species of their own, is absolute lunacy. Even with all the different types of apes and monkeys and whatever, they're not human. They're not human-like. And so to try to assert that is all just gibberish. But, they have a lot of people convinced. And when they indoctrinated all this brainwashing into the educational system, they certainly have succeeded in dividing people from the knowledge of their creator and their maker, and that, we were created in the image of the Most High, and that this was a special place made specifically for us, and that all the stars that we see that are fitted within the structure of the firmament, which was fitted to the circle of the earth, that these luminaries can in no manner be greater in size than the earth, because they fit in orbit under the firmament, which is fitted to the circle of the earth. And so, and you see in the creation story that the earth and the heavens were established before the heavenly luminaries were put into orbit under the firmament on the 4th day. And so all of these things are contrary to evolution and what science teaches and what they try to brainwash kids into believing in school.
One interesting thought, I agree with you in so much there. One interesting thought that I get is, why can't science have some kind of possibility that there could be giants like that on the earth and they just died out, kind of like the Neanderthals and stuff? But they still want to hide it. And I understand, I totally agree with you about, challenging the veracity and challenging the truthfulness of the Bible. But could they not try to just maybe twist it in science and in a scientific way and just say, well, those are just another species that just ended up dying out? Right? I mean, it's interesting how they're really dead set on just making sure no giants and no evidence of them are found.
Right, because again, the Bible affirms that the giants are the children of the fallen angels, and that their interdiction into the affairs of humanity and their being banished from the high heavens to this earth, that, they were here before we were, but that they were exiled. They were cast out by the Maker, our Creator. And so they don't want anybody to believe in intelligent design. They don't want anybody to have a relationship with the Most High God. They want everybody to fall away with them, because they know there is a time when the Messiah is coming back. From I go now to prepare a place for you, in that he will return. And he is coming back, and he's bringing judgment with him. And the demons Legion recognized him as the Son of God and as their tormentor. And they asked him, have you come to torment us before the time? Because they know that the gig is up. At some point, the gig is up. Their whole trying to be like the Most High, because Satan said, I will exalt my throne above the stars and the clouds of God. I will establish my throne in the sides of the north above the mount of the congregation. And for his efforts and for his boast, he was cast down with Legion, the seraphic angels, and banished to the interior of the earth. And they have ruled from Sheol since that time. And they've been given temporary extension of 120 jubilees, which is 7,000 years. But at the end of that 7,000 years, they're going to be destroyed as if they had never been. I want to give a shout out, Brick. I believe it's you that gave us a super chat. We appreciate you, man. And thank you, Tammy. She says you sound loud and clear. So you're good, Brett.
Good. Okay, good. I feel much better now. I have to shout. Okay.
Yeah.
One thing that you just said, Zen, was really interesting. And you said, the demons said to Jesus, why do you torment us before the time? Right? Am I correct?
Yes. Have you come to torment us before the time? Yes.
Okay. It takes me to another concept, and I'm going to get back to the giants again here, but it takes me to that concept when Jesus just crucified, and he went down, according to 2 Peter, I think, to talk to the spirits in prison.
Yes.
I listen to a lot of Christian radio, and I hear so many of them are pastors nowadays, good sounding, strong Christians, but they almost always seem to knock the possibility that Jesus went down there to talk to them. And it strikes me that, okay, that's another tell that people are trying to hide what the serpent seed truth is because, again, when the flood happened, I think Peter even says this, but the flood came and it took them all away, is because they were a lot of giants on the earth at that time as these mixed hybrid offspring. And their souls were down there at the time. And I believe, I kind of believe that the gospel, is it the gospel of Nicodemus? Is that the one
Yes.
that talks about Jesus?
Yes. And the Gospel of Bartholomew.
Bartholomew, too. Good one. I want to look at that one. But
And also the
I
Gospel of
see-
Gamaliel.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So there we go. We have three different sources that are parabiblical, but they still give the same account, which is interesting to look at. There's nothing wrong with checking them out. And I don't see any reason why that would be so wrong for everybody just to deny that Jesus may have went down and said, you know what, your attempts to stop me from coming and saving the world and doing what I had to do were taken out. I did it. Right?
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that. Another thing that makes me interesting is something I've read in my research is that before the flood, one reason that they were going after so many women is because they wanted to stop the prophecy, the Genesis 3:15 prophecy from coming true, and impregnate as many as they can to stop the Messiah from coming. So it makes total perfect sense that Jesus would have went down after his crucifixion and says, you know that attempt you tried to do before the flood, it's gone. It didn't work. I'm here, and I made it happen. And what do you think on that? Do you think that could be the reason what he actually did and why he did it is because these giant souls were actually down there awaiting judgment, and he just wanted to tell them, like the demons, those demons that said to him, why do you do this to us before it's time? Maybe that was going to be the time that they were going to get their comeuppance.
Yeah, he went down there to show them that they have no authority over him and that he has all power, that he could take out the souls that he wanted out of Sheol and from their bondage anytime that he wanted. He did this with Lazarus. He did this with the son Caesar, the son of Tiberius. And, he could do this with whoever he wants. He is the arbiter of life and death. He holds the keys of the kingdom. He is, the determiner of life and death, the extender of salvation. And so that's another reason why they tried to hide that whole aspect of, that when he resurrected many of the other dead, and they were witness in the streets of Jerusalem. And so, there are other confirming witness to this account as having gone down the way that the scriptures said. Because it's referenced in Matthew that he was seen, I think it's chapter 25 or something thereabouts, but he was seen with many of the other resurrected dead, like the children of Simeon, who were the two witnesses that when they wrote down their account, that became the Gospel of Nicodemus.
Yeah, and I think another thing that does is kind of throws a little cold water on purgatory, or the sense that you have to pray your ancestors into being saved, etc. Because Jesus did it all himself. He went down and picked some up at a time, and he can continue to do it. It's just his sacrifice. So I think that's another partial reason why, is because the people, let's say the religious dignitaries of the time, like to have that power where they say, okay, you give us enough money and bread and pray enough and set us up enough, and we'll try to pray for you and get your ancestors out.
Yeah, they were selling off the absolution of sins, which the Catholic Church kind of still does that sort of thing, and that's what made them, so very powerful. I mean, they're one of the largest landowners in this world, and the British monarchy also, like Queen Elizabeth, people don't know, but she owns 1/6 of all the land in the world. I mean, that's quite a lot. She could, if she wanted, she could give an acre to every person and still have, the majority of all the land in the world.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I think, and going back to this, and that's going back to this thought of why I think actually understanding what this whole serpent seed scenario is about is because, and again, we think about it. I was just, some of these things I'm writing in my new book is that, okay, you have Jesus supposedly coming from God, right? And a mortal human woman. That in a sense that has a little bit of parallel to the antediluvian world, where you have the fallen angels and mortal women again. So again, if certain people around the 4th century can start to deny that, that never happened, and the giants in Genesis 6:4, that can't happen. They don't procreate, they don't marry in heaven, etc. Then you're almost able to attack the divinity of Yeshua himself, right? Because if it can't happen back in the Old Testament, how is it ever supposed to happen with the Virgin Mary?
Yeah. Yeah, I see your point.
So so that makes sense. That's another reason why I think a lot of these times, and especially in this day, is that they're just so apt to not even think that any type of this creation between fallen angel and human can actually happen. Because again, that's pretty much the basis of this whole pagan belief, is that the serpent and Eve got together and they sired Cain, and they're the ones that actually helped to begin this religion, and it's actually a celebration. But again, they want you to think that paganism came just, it's neutral. There's nothing, there's nothing really wrong about it. Just developed into super religions, and that's it. But they again, that's another thing. They can say, well, how can a serpent actually be an angel? How can that actually happen? He must. And I still get that when I was, even when I was young, I would still get those stories that, the serpent must be some kind of snake that was able to talk, and somehow Eve wasn't surprised when he talked to her in the garden, and he just lost his legs, right? Somehow he lost his legs, so now he just runs around on his belly. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Right?
Right. And Christ told Adam Adam and Eve, when they were removed from paradise, that that he would be born of their bloodline, and that he would be immaculately conceived. And so, that was the whole reason why the order of the Magi was established by the children of Seth, was to keep watch for that time. And certainly he did fulfill all of those prophecies, which Isaiah, the prophet Isaiah, and so many more, they also spoke about and shared these passages in the scriptures, which talked about him being Emmanuel, God with us, and that he would be virgin born, born of a virgin, which Mary, his mother, was a perpetual virgin. He was immaculately conceived. She remained a virgin her whole life. She never had carnal relations with anybody. And that's why she was chosen to beget the Messiah. But certainly, Azazel, Satan, they tried to corrupt his bloodline to prevent his being born.
Oh, yeah.
Without a doubt. Go ahead.
Yeah, there are some stories about the antediluvian world where the faithful just held up in Mount Hermon, and they were kept getting lured down farther and farther. That's why God had to send that flood to begin with, is because there were barely any righteous left and pure in blood left for this prophecy to continue. So God said, okay, we're going to take 8 souls and we're going to make it happen.
Right. Yeah, and it's clear that Noah is said to be pure in his generations, which of course means that he was not corrupted by Nephilim blood. Even though, it says of him that he was born with a very bright nature and countenance, and that his father wasn't sure and blamed his wife with sleeping with the fallen angels. Because, that had occurred during the time of Enoch's father, Yared.
Yeah, was that the Book of Giants?
Yes, And it's also another story called the Genesis Apocryphon. It's part of the Dead Sea Scrolls, too.
Oh, yeah. The Dead Sea Scrolls, right. Yeah, I got that. Let me run this by you quick, Zen, because I'll give you my opinion too, but put this, because I remember from that story, Noah had supposedly woolly, bright hair, and he was almost shining as the sun, right, when he came out. And that is what Lamech basically looked at and got suspicious of his wife, right? Could that just be a gift that God bestowed on Noah for just the birth, as a thing? Could that be your thought on that? Why it came out that way?
Say that again, the last part.
We know that the angels, the hybrid angelic offspring that come out as giants, etc. Some of them that had that shining countenance, and you can just tell from their birth that they look different. They had part angelic blood, right? Most of them. But when Noah came up, obviously he was pure blood. So,
right.
Do you think the reason why he was shining as an angel, etc., with the white hair and with this countenance that made him look like one of the fallen ones, could that have been just because God wanted to give him a gift as
Oh yeah, yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, when you read the story in the Genesis Apocryphon, that is the narrative, and then Lamech blames his wife Batanosh with having had sexual relations with the fallen angels, which she did not have. She said that, this is your child. And Enoch confirmed it because he prayed for discernment and it was given to him. And it was confirmed that Noah would be special because he would lead and bring humanity through what would be the flood of that age. And it was specifically in Baruch 2, in that apocryphal text, it was specifically to wipe out 425,000 giants. So there was a massive population of these giants in the pre-flood age, and they were mostly destroyed, so that only Og and Sihon remained of the antediluvian giants.
Interesting. It's funny that you say that because I'm going to mention something in just a few minutes here about all those, what are they, 400,000 giants you said before the flood? We'll keep an eye on that. That's interesting. Yeah. So now there have also been talk in these accounts about Noah being a giant, but would it be the giant of character? You've heard of being described as a giant, right? Noah?
Yes, I did a show with Jonathan Gray, who is a archaeologist, and he went up there and met with Ron Wyatt in Turkey, and they actually had the grave of Noah's wife right near where the ark was located. And that grave had been dug up, and Noah's wife was said to be 18 feet tall. So, yeah, they were considered giants as well.
Another thought of why they would cover it up, this serpent seed or anything like that, obviously, again, is to try to hide that these descendants would still be around today and still be around influencing world events, etc. That makes it obvious because, again, kind of like, if how they say in the crime family, if nobody knows you exist, how can they point you out and expose you, right? And I think another thing is we've heard about the Knights Templar, etc., getting some of their knowledge from let's say darker forces and such. And again, if they're supposed to be a part of the Catholic Christian nation, going to those extremes, if they didn't exist, then they couldn't be actually doing anything wrong. And the knowledge that they're bringing to people can't be wrong, right? It almost goes back to, again, when the 4th century, when we're talking about the church being formed, the universal church, the Catholic Christian church. Again, they had multiple god worship, right? They had lesser gods and such, and to incorporate this whole Christian belief, that was a belief in one God, right? So in order to have these lesser gods turned into like saints, they had to kind of just maybe, again, another way to try to say, okay, you can pray to these saints, it's okay, because, there's that can go on in that respect, because, none of them have ever come down and then corrupted people in the world. Again, another way to kind of twist it away to allow paganism to become part of this huge behemoth now, this Christian religion. Your thoughts on that?
Well, we know that, the Catholic Church and the way they established the popes and the saints, that it's an extension of what was the ancient pagan and Gentile religions, because all of it, the purpose of all of it is to divert from the truth that Elohim, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, that they are the only true pre-existent Godhead, and that the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, being the feminine aspect of the Godhead, that they represent the human family, and that male and female created they them, that shows that we were made in their image, men being in the image of the Father and the Son, and women being in the image of the Ruach HaKodesh. And so that's the truth, and that is what was the original knowledge and the faith of the angels, because they know the truth, and they know that Elohim is the only Godhead. But Lucifer, when iniquity was found within him, he had the impossible thought of establishing his throne above the stars and the clouds of God. And because of that, he has, since that time, been trying to divert the worship of Elohim to that of himself. And so all the pagan angels, all the, false gods and goddesses, they've been trying to steal the worship, the true worship of Elohim, and to divert it to that of themselves. And so that's why in Revelation 12 it tells us that that old serpent, that ancient dragon, he who deceiveth the whole world, why it is that anybody that follows these pagan religions where they worship a pantheon of gods and goddesses, and especially now with so many people embracing the ancient Sumerian religions and traditions and teachings, they are all being led astray. And they don't know the true God. But, one day they will, and hopefully they'll be on the right side, the correct side of being numbered with the elect. Brett?
Yeah, I think that again, because there's so much paganism, is ancestor worship, and I think, as I was saying in my earlier shows, that we were talking about how Cain and the serpent actually started the belief in worshiping his mother and worshiping, of course, the serpent as the sun god, and then we get into even Adam and Abel, there's a few wayward souls, but there was all basically that pantheon started. And that's why it developed, and it had to keep going as the multi-god religions again to confuse and just make a one-god religion irrelevant.
Yeah, when you say, one God, that to me is Elohim, which is the three in one, the Holy Trinity, yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly what I meant, yeah. I got another kind of little fun thing I wanted just to talk about, if you'd like, Zen. It's something different. But I always do a little bit of searching around, not related to what we're just talking about here, but it is kind of. So you did say something about all of those angels, those 400,000 angels that were fighting or that were around during the antediluvian world, right? Interesting. There's a book, I guess it's a newly discovered text that has been around for supposedly a long time, and I kind of wanted to, as we talk, maybe every time that we kind of get together, I wanted to kind of just mention a new or a older source that I found that's interesting and that people may not know a lot about, or something that would kind of just throw you away. But have you ever heard of the Wars of the Giants in the Mountains?
The Wars of the Giants and the what?
In the mountains.
In the mountains?
In the mountains, yes.
No,
It's actually, I know, it just actually came out this year. And supposedly, like I said, I do a little bit of my research, and I kind of being a little bit hyper myself. I always try to find as many sources as I can, beginning with my research many years ago. And there's a guy named Demon, and he's on Amazon, actually, Demmon is the author.
yeah, I'm familiar.
That's all he is. But
Yeah, that book is
Yeah.
mentioned in the
He has
book
a
of
book.
Og.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. We mentioned the book of Og. And actually, in the book of Og, there supposedly is a phrase there that says, "Are the tales of the further battles of giants told in the scrolls of the wars of giants in the mountains?"
Yeah, I remember reading
So
that.
it's
Yeah.
actually, yeah. So they actually found that book,
Really?
and it was supposedly yeah. And I just purchased it. I purchased it about a week or so ago. Just started reading it, and I wanted to mention it because I think it'd be kind of fun. And basically, a little background on it. Obviously, from what I've done, and I'm sure you know about this then too, is the Catholic Church probably has many manuscripts and ancient alternative texts that they've come across over the years, hidden underneath the Vatican somewhere. And this Devon person, and I think it was a priest friend of his or someone of notoriety, was able to go down into these caverns or wherever it is underneath the Vatican and pull a few of these out. I mean, that's where you get the Lost Book of King Enoch, etc. Okay. Again, and from what I understand, they pulled a new one, and that just in May of this year came out. Okay. And I guess the description says a satchel of manuscripts was given to the Catholic Church in about 550 AD and was left undistributed and untranslated for close to 1,500 years. So they just did it and they got it out. And it's so interesting because once you start reading, there's a few things that you get to see and they either shed new light or they kind of, at least as far as my research, I hope to try to affirm some of the things I've been saying. So I'll say a couple things. For one, what the book is about, it's supposedly about the giants who actually fought each other before the flood. And you mentioned earlier about 450,000 or whatever. They talk about this in that book. They talk about the hundreds of thousands of giants where they weren't just going, eating flesh and etc. and doing and stirring up stuff. They actually had a war going on. And this war was actually going on all the way up to the flood because they talk about. It's so interesting. Like I said, I'm only a third of the way in it, but there's a mountain called Uval's Mountain, and this Uval, Vall, was another giant, and he had a mountain ended up named after him. And the giants were actually, when the flood started, because they talk about this flood going 40 days, and they talk about the fountains of the deep opening up. And again, remember, this is not biblical. This is written from the other side, and somebody who loves Baal. Okay, if you say Baal is great. So obviously, this is total pagan and the giants. They wrote it, and they talked about these giants actually fighting each other to the bitter end as the was rising around them. Just so fascinating. And they were actually running up this hill, that mountain that I was talking about, because the water was getting more and more, but they were still fighting. It's fascinating.
Oh yeah, I'm totally. I just ordered it, so.
I'm gonna read a little bit. Yeah, I'm gonna get a little bit and talk a little bit about some of the things I see, if you don't mind, because it's fascinating, and I don't think, like I said, a lot of people have heard about it, but it's very interesting.
Oh yeah, that's a follow up because that is mentioned in the book of King Og, the Rephaim giant, which was also released by Damon or whatever his name is. But yeah, in reading that book, it details how it was that the giants were at war with one another before the flood came, and that the downpour of the flood happened while they were waging war with one another, and that after the war, the giants. Yeah, and after the flood, the giants had to escape to the mountains. And, of course, we know Sihon and Og remained and survived. Og rode the ark. I don't know how Sihon survived, but that we don't get detail of. But But yeah, so yeah, man, please do share. We have just a little bit of time, but I would love to hear some passages from it.
Okay. One thing that it also does, it talks about a Nimrod, which is interesting.
Right.
Nimrod before the flood.
Yeah, the Nimrod, the rebel giant.
I view, right, right. And I think that Nimrod is more of a title than it would be one specific
Exactly.
person. That's
Yeah.
my interpretation.
Yeah, you're correct. I agree. Yeah.
Okay, because then, again, in the Bible, it means he rebelled. So when you hear that talk about Nimrod after the flood and in Genesis 11, I think, it doesn't mean that this was the only Nimrod found. I believe it was more of a title of a rebellion or a rebel that was famous. Okay, and again, we have it right here before the flood and after the flood, because a lot of people would say, "Oh, Esau killed Nimrod," right? Because it says it in the book of Yashar, right? He killed him and took his clothes, etc. I believe, doing the research of Hislop and the two Colons and a lot of different books I've read over the years, I believe that actually Shem was one of the ones, just going to go off topic here real quick, but I believe that Shem was one who killed Nimrod originally, that one that we're talking about, son of Cush. And one of his descendants at the time, they would keep keeping that title of Nimrod. And maybe it was his grandson by the time Esau was around that actually killed him. So again, you do have, it's technically right, you do have it, Nimrod, the rebel was killed by Esau, but I don't know if it was actually the same Nimrod. What's your thoughts? Just curious.
I think that the Nimrod of these particular manuscripts was a giant, before the flood, and that the Nimrod that built the Tower of Babel, that this was a Nimrod that was a human, even though he became a Gibberim, he was still human before that. And so, yeah, I think Nimrod is a title. It means a rebel, and that Nimrod received that name or used that name because of the giant that used it before the flood.
Interesting. He did it in honor of the giant, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like rebuilding Babylon and all these. I believe a lot of those cities were actually built by Cain before the flood, and they, again, to honor their pagan heroes and the paganism that didn't quite die yet, they started rebuilding those cities after.
Yeah, I agree.
Another thing here, okay, let's see here.
Yeah, share some quotes. We only got like 12 minutes.
Okay. The dark ones moved against them with deception, and I believe what they talk about the dark ones, I believe it's the demonic spirits that actually were able to influence even these giants to make them sin very bad. Blindness and trickery, and hundreds of giants died confused because of this. Many giants opened up themselves to violent desires of the dark ones and were possessed with them. For the dark ones give no rest to the flesh, and their yoke is difficult, and their burden is heavy. And another thing it says right after this, in the black rain, when they talk about the black rain in this book, it seems to be the rain from above, okay, not the firmament. It says, the last part of the earth was filled with violence. And it's interesting when I read that, I can't help but think of the Bible and think, okay, that's exactly what it says about the pre-flood world, right?
Uh-huh.
So we gotta just attribute this to, this can't be, you can't push that around and say, oh, is that another flood somewhere in time, after the flood, whatever. This is all pointing to the antediluvian world.
Right.
And it says, and the violence was throughout the waters, and the rising waters were a heavy flood as they increased, and the rising waters prevailed, and the legions of giants drowned, and the water was thick with bodies and parts of bodies like meat in red pottage. For heaps upon heaps of slain bodies, and their limbs also fell into the waters and floated off the mountains, and the black water churned with their blood. So it's quite
Right. Yeah, they were all drowned out.
Yeah. Another thing that I think the main battle that's going on was, which is interesting, maybe you can give me your comment on this, but the circumcised Nephilim were fighting the uncircumcised ruffian.
Yes. Yeah, in the
Seems to be
previous
a war.
right, in the previous story in the book of King Og, the Rephaim giant, Nimrod had become a friend with those that were in covenant with the with Yahweh or Yahuwah, and he was protecting the humans and they also took up circumcision, and he made all the giants that were part of his army to also circumcise themselves, and so all that, they became believers in the Most High, and they fought against the other giants, and in that way they were, as the Book of Enoch says, they were brought together to decimate one another because they were the children of the fallen angels. And so, yeah, all that is in the, that Nimrod fought against Og and his son Augeas. And Og was married to Lysandra, who was a giant female. And they tried to abduct the moon child, who was the last female Nephilim ever born, and or female giant. And after that, it all went downhill. They were no longer able to propagate their own race.
Right, because they split up with the children, probably, some of them. Is that right?
Well, there were no more female giants, so they couldn't mate with them.
Oh. Yeah, they do mention the moon child in this book, too.
Okay, cool.
And another thing that I wanted to say, which is quite, it's interesting that in the pre-flood world, they did seem to have a Nimrod that was in Yahweh's side, right? And he was recruiting Nephilim,
Right.
and getting them circumcised. And also, like in my book and the research I've been doing, the Nimrod of the post-flood world was actually on God's side for a while. Started out, and he was someone that God wanted to actually do services for him, do work for him, keep people together.
Right.
Interesting how that same parallel happened.
Yeah, perhaps what happened in the pre-flood world was that he rebelled against the rest of the giants, and that's why they called him Nimrod, which is the title, the rebel. Just speculation, but could be.
That's interesting. Yeah, maybe it was from the pagans' perspective and turned around
Right.
and called him Nimrod because
Exactly.
he was actually working on Yahweh's side.
Exactly. Yes, that's right.
That makes totally sense.
Yeah.
Sense. Now, question to you about the moon child. We got a few more minutes, right? Okay.
Yeah, we got
Why
6
couldn't
minutes.
the last female. Okay, that last female. The question to you, real quick, is why couldn't they just use mortal women then? Because what's the significance of the moon child then? If they couldn't.
Well, what happened is that they could only mate with human women when they were small in stature. And as they grew up in age and became very much larger than humans, they were not able to mate with human women. That's why they turned, after their own women were gone, they started to mate with each other. And it was the giants that they became homosexuals because there were only male giants left. And so they would indulge in sexuality with each other. And so that's where that whole abomination and promiscuity and, homosexuality originates from, is from the giants.
Yeah, I heard that there was something about
Right. Yeah, they're androgynous.
Jews, is that correct?
Yeah, the angels are androgynous. Yeah.
So maybe when these fallen Nephilim and these angels were choosing women, you could have been messing up with a person's mind that could have been born because you have an androgynous being mating with a human mortal woman,
Yeah, could be.
right? And how would they think of what's right? They would be fairly messed up in the head.
Right. Yeah, I think that the
So that would
Nephilim angels were actually given male bodies. That's why they were able to conceive with the daughters, to impregnate the daughters of Cain. And all that is described in the Keber Nagas in great detail. We got 4 minutes, brother.
Okay, one last thing I'll just ask you is about then how would the moon child do you think came about?
Well, the moon child was
Why would it?
she was a female giant, and she came about from Og. He was still married to one of the last female giants. Her name was, I think, Lysynthia, something like that. It starts with a L. And she was a female giant as well. But she, after giving birth to the moon child, she was no longer able to conceive children. She was past her prime, and she couldn't give birth anymore. And so the priests of Baal had determined that the moon child, and the prophecy was that she was going to help the giants to be able to propagate again. But when Nimrod abducted her, Og went to go save her, and she died in that, confrontation. So that's when there were no longer any female giants of childbearing age that could become impregnated by the giants and sustain their race. 2 minutes, brother. Go ahead and give out your website and info again, and we'll do a show on this. I just ordered the book myself, so we'll read it. We'll share some information on it the next time we get together. Yeah, because this is an interesting story.
Let's continue that.
Yeah, for sure. Fascinating topic.
You'd love to. I think it's very interesting, fascinating. Okay. Yeah, give me a call or give me an email. I'm sorry, real quick. mysterybabylon@1791.com. If you feel like talking or making comments, please do. And my website is mysterybabylon.com.
All right, brother. Hey, we appreciate you very much, Brett. I'm glad we got all the technical issues out of the way. Next week or the next time we get together, there won't be any problems. And I look forward to doing a part 2 on this particular topic. You can find the book at Amazon. I just ordered it myself. I'm very much interested in reading it, and it should be a follow-up to what is the Lost Book of King Og, the Rephaim Giant, which was also released by, Vatican Archives. And so definitely going to keep up with this guy because he keeps releasing books. There's another one, Lamech of the Seed of Cain. And his best friend was a giant, and they worship Leviathan. That's a fascinating narrative as well. But
One about Nebuchadnezzar too.
yeah, I just ordered that one as well because I don't have that one. And so I'm interested in reading all of those. But hey, man, we appreciate you. Hope everybody enjoyed the show. Be blessed all. Have a great night. And we'll talk to you
All right.
Saturday. Be blessed, man. Shalom.